The sun was bright, too bright for a day meant for death. The crowd stood in silence, their eyes locked on the tall platform in the middle of the city square. Armed guards stood on all sides, holding long spears with glowing tips. On that platform, tied with metal bands around her wrists and ankles, stood a young alien woman with silver skin and glowing purple eyes. Her name was Kylara. A voice echoed from the platform speaker, loud and cold. Kylara of House Venkai, you are charged with high treason against the Council of Elders. You are sentenced to public execution. No one cheered. No one clapped. The people only watched. Many of them didn't even know why she was being killed. They were told she was dangerous, a liar, a traitor to the colony. But they didn't know what she had truly done. Kylara lifted her chin. Her face was bruised, but her eyes burned with pride. She said nothing. If she spoke, they would twist her words. If she cried, they would call her weak. So she stood straight and waited. From the edge of the crowd, a human man pushed forward. He wore dirty clothes, old boots, and had a backpack on his shoulder. His name was Daniel, a worker from the outer districts. He didn't belong here. Humans weren't even allowed near the council square without permission. But Daniel didn't stop. He kept walking, his eyes locked on Kylara. The guards noticed. Two stepped toward him, crossing their spears in front of his path. Halt, turn around. One guard growled. I need to speak, Daniel said, raising his voice. No human may speak here. Turn around now. Daniel stepped back. For a moment, it looked like he would leave. The guards turned back toward the stage. That's when he ran. He jumped over the barrier, dodging between shocked citizens. The crowd gasped. Kylara's eyes widened. The guards shouted, raising their weapons, but Daniel was fast. He ran straight toward the platform, climbed onto a support beam, and jumped onto the stage. The guards aimed their blasters at him. Don't shoot, Kylara cried out. The first word she had spoken all day. Daniel stood between her and the executioner. She saved me, he shouted, his voice shaking but clear. 3 weeks ago, during the sandstorm near the outer gates, I would have died. She found me, gave me water, and carried me to safety. The crowd began to murmur. People turned to each other, whispering. This wasn't part of the trial. No one had mentioned this before. The High Counselor, an old alien male with glowing red eyes, stepped forward from his high seat. This is not your place, human. Leave now, and we may forget this foolishness. I won't leave, Daniel said. She's not a traitor. She risked everything to help me. You can't kill her for that. She is guilty of spreading lies, the counselor said. She told others that humans are not a threat, that they might carry the cure to our sickness. That's dangerous thinking. But what if it's true, Daniel said. Why are you so afraid of her words? Kyla looked at him, her lips trembling. No one had ever spoken for her before. She was born into a noble house, raised with honor, but when she questioned the council, her own people turned on her. Now this human, a stranger, was standing between her and death. Take him away, the counselor ordered. 2 guards jumped onto the stage and grabbed Daniel. He didn't fight back. He just kept looking at Kylara. I'm not sorry, he said to her. I owed you my life, and I'd rather die with honor than let them do this to you. The crowd was no longer silent. Some began shouting. A few alien women cried out, let her speak. Others yelled at the guards to stop. The voices rose louder. The counselor raised his hand and shouted into the speaker, silence, or all of you will face punishment. But the damage was done. Doubt had entered the people's minds. If a human could risk death for her, maybe she wasn't what they had been told. Kylara stepped forward, breaking one of the metal bonds from the stage wall. Her voice was strong. You all know me. You know my house. You know my record. I never lied. I only spoke what I saw. If that is treason, then you are ruled by fear. The guards held their weapons, but none fired. Daniel was pushed down, but still watching her, and for the first time, Kylara smiled. Not because she was safe, but because she wasn't alone anymore. And somewhere deep within the crowd, more humans were watching quietly. Ready. Something had begun. 2 guards dragged him from the execution platform, their grip rough. The crowd still whispered. Some were confused. Others were afraid, but something had changed. Kylara could feel it. For the first time since her arrest, someone believed her. Kylara's voice had stirred the people. But Daniel's actions, leaping onto the execution stage with no weapon, no shield, had shaken the entire colony. Inside the council building, Daniel was thrown into a steel interrogation room. The lights were harsh, white, and unblinking. A panel slid open, and a high-ranking alien officer stepped in. His blue armor gleamed, and his voice was calm but cold. You embarrassed the council in front of thousands, the officer said. Why? Daniel raised his head. She's innocent. The officer circled him like a predator. You are not one of us. You live in the human quarters. You work the tunnels. What do you gain from saving her? She once saved me. I didn't forget, Daniel replied. The officer paused. You would risk your life for a feeling. No, Daniel said, his voice calm. For truth. And maybe for something more. The officer left the room without another word, but his silence said everything. They didn't know what to do with him. A human had never interfered in a council execution. This was new and dangerous. Meanwhile, Kylara was taken to a cold chamber beneath the council tower. No more sunlight, no more air, just stone, and the hum of security drones overhead. Her hands were still bound. A scar on her shoulder pulsed with pain where a guard had struck her earlier. Yet her mind was not on herself, it was on Daniel. Why did he do it? She barely knew him. Their only meeting had been brief during the sandstorm, when she found his broken body near a collapsed tunnel. She carried him through 2 kilometers of storm, risked being seen by guards, gave him her own cloak for warmth, but she had never. I expected to see him again. He should have forgotten her. Most would have, but he didn't single quotes to now because of that. He was likely facing execution. A low voice spoke from the corner of her cell. She hadn't noticed the figure standing there. A woman, cloaked in black, eyes hidden behind a crystal visor. Why does the human matter so much to you? The woman asked. Kylara stood, her legs weak but steady. He showed them what they were too afraid to admit. That we are not the enemy. Kylara nodded. That humans aren't here to destroy us, but maybe to help. The woman stepped forward and tapped a panel on the wall. The shackles around Kylara's wrists clicked open. I am Commander Tevil, she said. Years ago, I believed what you believe now, but I stayed quiet. Then why help me now? Because the human didn't stay quiet. And now, your voices might be louder than mine ever was. Kylara's hands were free, but escape was still impossible. Unless someone from the outside did something foolish or brave. Back in the city barracks, Daniel sat in his cell, thinking. His body ached, but his spirit burned bright. He had not made a mistake. Something in Kylara's voice, her eyes, her strength had cooled. To him, she was not a criminal, she was a spark. The guard outside grunted, opening the door. You've got one visitor, he said. Daniel looked up. It was a child, alien, small, blue-skinned, trembling. She held out a small cube. She told me to give this to you. Don't let them erase it. The girl vanished down the hallway before he could speak. Daniel opened the cube. A soft green light glowed, and a voice played. Kylara's voice, recorded secretly. In my travels I discovered something. The sickness killing my people, it stops when a human is near. I've seen it 3 times. The council doesn't want this known. They want control, not healing. The message ended. Daniel stared at the cube in his hand. If this recording got out, everything would change. The truth was now in his hands. And now, he had a choice. Stay silent and survive, or escape and fight. He looked at the cracked wall, the loose panel above his bunk, and the vent that hadn't worked in months. He stood up. It was time to break the law again. The council had launched a full lockdown just 10 minutes after Daniel's escape. When they found his cell empty and the vent system destroyed, their fury spread like wildfire. Patrols swarmed the corridors. Streets were sealed. Gates shut tight. But Daniel had planned well. He had studied the maps of the inner towers. The stolen cube with Kylara's message was hidden inside his coat, and Kylara, smuggled out with help from Commander Tevil, had barely reached him before the first alarm sounded. Now they were flying through a dark sky in a stolen courier pursued by hunter drones from the council fleet. They're gaining on us, Kylara shouted, clutching the side of the ship as red light flared behind them. Daniel didn't answer. His jaw was tight. His eyes scanned the radar for drones. Speed class 9. Too fast, too deadly. They needed cover. There he pointed toward the broken canyons of Zone 7. A dead district buried in black stone and smoke. We go low. They can't lock weapons in that turbulence. Kylara didn't argue. The sky around them howled. Ash clouds danced across their path. The hovercraft shook violently as it entered the old mining gorge. Static filled the cabin. The drones behind them fired, but the blasts hit rock walls, not metal. Inside the cockpit, the world became shadows and speed. Wind pushed against the ship like a monster clawing at its prey. Sparks burst from one control panel. Left thruster sputtered. Hold together, girl, Daniel muttered to the ship, slamming his hand against the failing stabilizer. Kylara reached across and grabbed a support bar. I'll guide your turns. I know this canyon. You've flown here before. She smiled weakly. I grew up here. Another blast hit the canyon edge, sending rock crashing behind them, sealing their path from the drones. The hovercraft dove down, twisted, then disappeared into a natural cave mouth hidden in shadow. Silence. Only their heavy breaths filled the cabin. Daniel let go of the controls, his hands shaking. We lost them. Kyla exhaled slowly, then reached out, placing her hand gently over his. You did it. No, he said, still panting. We did. The cave was cold. Old mining equipment lay broken around them, half covered in dust and moss. Glowing stones pulsed softly along the walls, casting light across the 2 fugitives. Kylara collapsed near an old crate. Her body trembled. Daniel knelt beside her, placing a hand on her shoulder. Are you hurt? I just need rest, she said. The bond cuffs they left damage inside. Daniel pulled a medical patch from his coat and pressed it to her arm. The tiny injector hissed. You're safe here, he said. Kylara looked at him. Really looked. You should have left me. You had a life. I have one now, he said, and it's with you. Her lips parted, but no words came. She looked down, eyes wet. I never thought anyone would fight for me. Not like this. Daniel leaned back against the wall, still watching her. We're not done yet. He pulled out the cube again. The message was still safe, still clear. If they could just get it to the right people, maybe this worthless lie could end. Far above the canyon, the council fleet circled like vultures. Inside the command ship, Counselor Rethos watched the smoke rise from Zone 7. They will not survive the night, he said. Send the Seekers, activate ground units. But sir, one captain said carefully, if they reveal the message, then destroy anyone who hears it. Rethos snapped. Back in the cave, Daniel and Kylara sat by a small fire made from broken crate panels. The glow lit their faces. She had wrapped herself in an old pilot's coat. He had found emergency food in a storage bin, alien rations, dry but edible. Kylara leaned closer. There's something else I didn't tell you. Daniel looked at her. The sickness, she said. It isn't natural. It was designed, engineered. Daniel froze. I found the files years ago before I spoke out. The council created it to keep power. And humans, they never expected humans to survive it. Daniel clenched his fists. So this whole thing, all the deaths, it's because they wanted control. She nodded. And now they're willing to kill anyone who knows. He looked into the fire, then at her. Then we tell the whole world, Daniel said. Not just aliens. Not just humans. Everyone. Kyla gave him a look that was both terrified and full of hope. And how will we do that? She asked. Daniel smiled. First we find the old relay station in the mountains. She raised an eyebrow. That's been offline for 10 years. Not anymore, he said. I fixed it last season. Thought I was just salvaging junk. Kylara shook her head. You're insane. Daniel stood up, offering her his hand. Maybe, but I'm not alone. Kylara took his hand. And together they stepped out into the night toward the mountain, the truth, and whatever waited in the darkness beyond. Asterisk. Daniel paused beside her. Wind howled through the jagged mountain peaks, biting their faces and pulling at their worn cloaks. The relay station ahead was wrapped in shadow, half buried under snow and ash, its antenna crooked like a finger pointing at the stars. Daniel squinted. This is where they found you, isn't it? Kylara nodded slowly. This is where I uncovered the files, the proof, the lies. She looked at her own reflection in the cracked metal door. Her glowing purple eyes shimmered in the cold light. Memories rushed back, heavy in sharp screams, alarms, betrayal. She had come here 3 years ago to check a broken signal, only to discover a hidden file buried in the archives. Not just a message, a confession. The sickness was made by the council, she said softly, to control population, to silence weak colonies, but it was meant to be temporary. When I found the documents, I didn't know what to do. I sent them to a trusted elder. He sent them straight to the council instead. Daniel's breath hung in the air. And that's when they turned on you. She gave a bitter smile, called, Mea Triton Alia. They said I tried to spread panic, then they came for me. Daniel touched her arm. We have to go back inside. If those files are still there, or even fragments, we can use them. Add them to your voice recording. Make the truth undeniable. Kylara hesitated, then she stepped forward. Inside the air was stale. Dust floated in beams of pale moonlight. The walls were scorched from a long-forgotten fire, and broken computer panels lined the hallway. Kylara led the way with slow, careful steps. She remembered every creak, every corner. They reached the central chamber. Her hands hovered over a console, long cold. I need time, she said, and silence. Daniel nodded and stood watch by the door, listening for movement in the snow. His hand gripped the handle of a rusted crowbar they had found near the cave. Primitive but solid. Kylara plugged in a memory tool and whispered old codes into the interface. The screen blinked once, twice, then came live. Data flowed, broken, fragmented but still breathing. Kylara's eyes widened. They didn't delete everything. Images appeared, medical reports, lab tests, and final approvals signed by Counselor Rethos himself. She found a video file. It showed alien scientists releasing gas into test chambers, then watching helpless patients fall. One by one, Kylara's face paled. It was worse than I remembered. She copied everything but the noise. Daniel spun toward the hallway. Footsteps, fast and heavy, echoed from the tunnel. Not machines. Soldiers. Time's up, Daniel shouted. We've got company. Kylara ripped the memory chip from the console and bolted toward the exit. The two of them sprinted through the frozen halls. Red lights began to flicker above, emergency sensors detecting heat. Outside, she yelled. Through the maintenance shaft. They slid through a rusted panel, barely squeezing through. Daniel held it shut as boots pounded behind them. Move! Kylara pulled him through and they rolled into the snow. Bullets struck the wall behind them, sending sparks into the night. They ran down the ridge, feet sliding on ice, but the guards were faster. Just before they were caught, a loud explosion lit up the sky behind them. The old antenna collapsed, crushing part of the station. Screams followed. One of the old energy cells had finally blown. Smoke rose, fire roared. Kylara looked back once, breathless. They'll think we died in that blast, Daniel coughed. Let's make it true at least for now. They disappeared into the mountain shadows. Hours later, they found a small cave to rest. Snow covered their trail. The fire crackled softly. Daniel sat close to Kylara, watching her hold the chip. You've been carrying that truth inside you for years, he said. She nodded. But I wasn't strong enough alone. You are now, he said. Kylara looked at him. You keep saying that because it's true. There was silence. Then she spoke again. I had a sister, she said, younger than me. She got the sickness, the one the council created. They refused to treat her, said she wasn't important enough. She died in my arms. Daniel's expression hardened. That's why you fought back, he said. She nodded, wiping her eyes. I couldn't to save her, but maybe I can save someone else. Daniel put his hand on hers. You already have. Far away, in the council's war chamber, a red light blinked on the main screen. A signal had been sent, a message uploaded, and though it had not yet reached every system, it had reached one, an old human ship floating in deep orbit, a ship that still remembered Kylara's voice. And the crew, half human, half alien, were already changing course toward her, toward the fire, toward the truth. They had been walking for hours through the cold mountain pass, trying to stay hidden after the explosion at the relay station. The night was quiet, almost peaceful, with stars blinking above the snowy cliffs, but Kylara's steps had grown slower. Her face was pale, and now she collapsed. Daniel checked her pulse. It was faint. Her skin, normally a soft shimmer of silver, had turned gray. A glowing rash had spread across her neck. She's reacting, he whispered, to the sickness. Kylara gritted her teeth and forced her eyes open. It's the cuffs, she gasped. From when they held me, poison inside. Spreads slowly. Daniel's heart raced. You told me the sickness doesn't affect humans. What if ... What if my blood could help you? She looked at him, confused. That's a myth. You said it yourself. Daniel replied. Your people get sick. Humans don't. You said you've seen it. Kylara groaned in pain. We have no science, no proof. Daniel pulled off his coat and tore open the small survival kit they had recovered from the old cave. Inside was a medinjector used for emergencies. He grabbed it. Kylara's eyes widened. You don't even know if our blood can mix. Don't care, Daniel said. You saved me in the storm. I owe you this. She tried to protest, but her body trembled too much to speak. Daniel rolled up his sleeve. His veins were strong. He loaded a blood sample into the injector, added a stabilizer from the pack, then pressed it gently against her arm. The injector hissed. Kylara gasped, her whole body stiffening. Her hands clawed at the frozen ground. Then ... Slowly, her breath eased. The glow in her veins faded. Her skin warmed. Her shaking stopped. She blinked up at him. Daniel ... It's working. He smiled, even though his own face was pale from blood loss. Told you. She sat up slowly, her body still weak but alive. You gave me part of your life, she whispered. I gave you what was already yours, he said. They rested in the cave that night. The fire burned low, and Daniel drifted in and out of sleep. Kylara stayed awake beside him, watching the flame flicker across his face. She had studied humans for years from a distance. Never had she touched one like this. Never had one risked his life for hers. In her world, loyalty came with price. Daniel had asked for nothing. She leaned closer and whispered, You should have never come to that platform. His eyes opened slowly. But I did. Kylara gave a quiet laugh. I keep thinking, what if they find us again? Then we fight, he said. She looked at him seriously. They'll kill you. I'd rather die free than live under liars, Daniel replied. Silence fell between them. Again, but now it was warm. She reached out and took his hand. I won't let them hurt you, Daniel smiled. We'll protect each other. The next morning, Kylara was stronger, her steps were firmer. They moved quickly down from the mountains into a wide red valley, once a trading route, now abandoned. A few scattered ships lay, broken across the plain, old bones of past wars. Daniel pointed to a black wreck in the distance. There's our next ride. They found a small scout pod damaged but still holding life in its engine. Daniel worked on the controls while Kylara stood watch, holding a plasma rifle from the ship's side bay. Suddenly, static buzzed through. The pod's broken comms. A voice crackled through. This is Unity-class vessel. Nemia, we received your signal. Is that really you? Kylara's eyes went wide. It's them, my old crew. They survived. Daniel blinked. You had a crew. She nodded. When the council turned on me, they scattered. I thought they were gone, but they kept the ship. Another voice came through, this one soft, male, and urgent. We're inbound. Coordinates locked. 8 to 15 minutes. If the council tracks us, we may not get a second pass. Be ready. Kylara grabbed Daniel's arm. We have one shot. But not everyone was asleep on the skies above. Councillor Ethos stood in his battle cruiser, watching Kylara's signal glow like fire on the map. She's still alive, he growled. Prepare the strike drones. His eyes narrowed. If we can't silence her, we'll bury her. Back on the surface, Kylara and Daniel readied the scout pod. Kylara loaded the data chip and her voice file into the system. If something happens, she said, and I don't make it send this. Daniel looked at her. You're making it. Both of us are. She stared at him, then pulled him into a kiss brief. Unsure, but real. I believe you, she said softly. In the distance, engines roared through the air. The Nemea was coming, but so were the drones. Daniel stood outside the old scout pod with yellow wind ripping through his jacket as dust and light swirled all around them. The earth trembled under their feet. One drone had already spotted the mid, flew low, aiming its laser cannon. Run, Daniel shouted, grabbing Kylara's hand. But she didn't run. Kylara turned and fired the plasma rifle. One sharp shot hit the drone's wing. It spiraled out of control and exploded in the valley rocks behind them. Daniel stared at her. That was ... impressive. I'm not just a voice, she said with fire in her eyes. Above them, the great ship Nemea hovered. Its ramp opened midair, and sleek ropes dropped down. Figures in dark armor descended fast, landing in a circle around Kylara and Daniel. Each one had a glowing blue visor and weapons aimed outward. One of them stepped forward and removed his helmet. It was Commander Velen, Kylara's second-in-command from 3 years ago. His face was older, with scars, but his eyes still held loyalty. You're alive, he said. So are you, Kylara replied, barely holding back emotion. Velen gave her a quick nod. We never stopped waiting. We've been hiding in the belt. But your signal reached us. We have proof, Daniel said, stepping forward, holding the chip. Of everything. Velen took it carefully. Then we finish what we started. Back aboard the Nemea, Daniel and Kylara stood on the bridge. Below them, the valley shrank as the ship climbed through the clouds. Kylara turned to Velen. How many crew do we still have? 25. Most are loyal, but the council has more. Thousands more. Kylara walked to the command chair. Her fingers brushed the edges. This ship was once a symbol of peace, she said. Now it must become a weapon. Velen smiled. Then give the order, Captain. She looked at Daniel. He gave her a nod. Activate full relay, she said. I want every colony, every outpost, every floating station to hear my voice. The lights dimmed. A hum spread across the bridge. A wide screen glowed blue. Kylara stepped forward. She looked into the lens. My name is Kylara Venkai, she said, her voice strong. And the council tried to kill me for telling the truth. Across 100 screens, on mining ships, farm domes, border planets, and even old human stations, her face appeared. They created the sickness to control us. They let the weak die. They hid the fact that humans carry the key to our survival. She took a breath. I have lived in fear. I have been hunted, but I will not hide anymore. This is a call to everyone who still has honor, alien or human. Join us, stand with us, let truth rise above power. Velen stepped beside her. We are not rebels, he said. We are defenders. Of truth, of life. Kylara ended the message with 5 words. Let them come for us. But the council had already heard. Inside the war tower of Rithos, alarms screamed. She sent the message. A soldier reported. Rithos slammed his staff into the floor, then crushed the rebellion before it spreads. Find every sympathizer, burn every ship. He turned to his shadow guards. And bring me the human, alive. I want him to see her execution this time. The next few hours moved like fire. Ships from old fleets long retired sent signals to Kylara. Messages came in from other aliens, from humans in the worker zones, from a hidden station orbiting a dead moon. We hear you. We're coming. We stand with you. Daniel looked around the bridge and felt it. Hope, Kylara, he said, walking to her. What if we win? She looked at him. Then we'd build something better. Together. In the shadows of deep space, a council fleet formed a wall of destruction. But on the other side, more ships lit up. Smaller, slower, but rising. Kylara's words had touched something. Anger, not revenge. What unity? The kind no council could destroy. And as the stars flickered above, the Nemea turned toward the enemy. Kylara raised her hand. Full speed, she said. Daniel stood at her side, hand resting near hers. He didn't have a weapon, but he had her, and that was enough. Let them hear you, she said, standing at the center of the Nemea's bridge. Not just your fire, but your truth. All across the ship, the crew stood ready. Engineers ran final checks. Gunners aligned the plasma cannons. Shields pulsed, blue as the Nemea moved forward, outnumbered but not outmatched. Behind them, more ships had arrived. Some old, others small, most damaged but flying. Together, this was no longer a rescue. This was war. Daniel stood beside Kylara in the command tower. He had never led an army, never fought in space, but this fight wasn't just about ships. It was about people who had been stepped on, lied to, and silenced. And now they were roaring back. Velen turned from the nav screen. The council has locked all broadcast towers. They'll jam everything once they're in range. Daniel held up the chip with Kylara's files, the message, the evidence, the proof. Then we don't send the signal, he said, locking eyes with Kylara. We become the signal. She understood instantly. We fly straight through, she said, right into their city. And we broadcast from the heart of the council tower. The crew went silent for one breath. Then every voice answered it. Once yes, Captain. Above the homeworld, the battle had already begun. Council ships fired in perfect waves, cold and brutal. The rebel fleet, disorganized but determined, dodged and pushed forward. For every ship lost, another joined in. Inside the Nemea, alarms blared. Sparks flew from a damaged vent. A side turret exploded, sending a gunner to the floor. Medics rushed forward, but Kylara stood firm. Cut through their center line, she ordered. Speed boost to thrusters now. The Nemea roared ahead, shields blazing. It passed through the storm like a silver blade, punching through 2 enemy cruisers. Fires erupted behind them. Drone wings chased from both sides. We can't hold this line, Velen shouted. We're not here to hold it, Daniel said. We're here to break it. Down on the planet, Counselor Rethos watched from the tower's control room. Flames lit the sky. His fleet was crumbling. Activate the final cannon, he said coldly. End this rebellion now. The tower's central weapon, a sunbeam core, turned slowly toward the enemy. It began to glow. Kyla felt it, a soft vibration in the ship's floor, a heartbeat of doom. They're powering the sun core, she said. If that hits us, we vanish. Daniel grabbed the control rail. Then we aim straight at it. Suicide, Velen muttered. No, Kylara said, smiling truth. Carried on fire. She turned to the pilot, ram speed. The crew stared. Then the engines howled. The Nemea tilted forward, descending like a falling star. The council tower filled the screen. Its sharp black walls pulsed with light. The sunbeam weapon pointed directly at them. A hum filled the air. Power charged in blue rings. Almost there, Kylara said. She loaded the chip into the final transmitter core built deep inside the ship's heart. It was designed to survive even if the bridge did not. The screen blinked. Message armed. It read. She turned to Daniel. This is our moment. And then she kissed him. No words, just a promise sealed by lips, breath and hope. Daniel smiled. Let's rewrite their laws. Just before impact, the council fired a blast of energy struck the Nemea. It tore through steel, flame and power. But the Nemea did not stop it. Hit the council tower like thunder from the sky. The city below lit up. Dust and debris shot into the air. The signal chip shielded in the deepest part of the ship survived. As the tower cracked open, the signal launched straight into the sky. Across the galaxy, screens blinked to life. Kylara's face appeared again, but now beside hers. Daniel. They spoke together. They told the truth about the plague, the lies, the healing bond between humans and aliens. They spoke not as soldier and captain, but as people, as a voice that could not be silenced. A week later. The war was over. The council was gone. Their laws were ashes. In their place stood something new, not perfect, not finished, but real. A table where aliens and humans sat side by side. Kylara stood at its head, Daniel beside her, scars on their skin, fire in their eyes and in her hands. The same chipped recording cube that had started it all. Outside the rebuilt tower, children played. Alien and human together. No more fences, no more fear. Only a voice that had once screamed on a platform, now speaking with hope. Kylara looked at Daniel, hand in his. She whispered, we didn't die. Daniel smiled. No, we lived loud enough to change the world. And above them the stars burned bright. Each one listening, each one listening, each one writing a new law in fire.